Short video for adopters on the basic capabilities of the Kendo grid and chart. This is the first of 3 videos. This is going to show the basics of how they work, some of the options you have. The next video will show when you have a series or something that's called a group, and the third video will be missing values. The intent of these videos are to show what the possibilities are, what the limitations are, and how the grid can be used. It is not meant to be an end user training video. Hopefully you'll see that these videos provide some basic information that an end user would want, and then you can go ahead and make an appropriate end user training video. To get started, I have an indicator profile report here that is showing a basic chart, and then as you scroll down you can see the basic grid that corresponds with that chart. I'm going to start by showing the basic capabilities of the grid itself. And when you don't have a group, the main thing that you can do with this is control the data that you see and how it's ordered. So every column within the grid has a control menu, and this can be accessed by clicking this little down triangle, and you can see here you can sort this column's values and ascending, descending. You can turn on and off the columns that show, and you can filter data within. And I'm going to show the basic capabilities of all these things. Another thing that you can do with grids is you can, if you go between the title cell, you have the little resize icon that you can drag back and forth to resize your columns. You can also rearrange columns simply by dragging the title around, and you can see how you can rearrange your grids any way that you want. Let's turn off some of the columns too, just to show that basic capability. So you go to this menu, you go to columns, and let's say we want to turn off the lower 95% and the upper 95%. You can see that those are now unchecked, and of course they're missing from the grid. The columns can be turned on from any grid menu, so you don't have to use the one that turned them off. All you have to do is access it, click them, and you're good to go. The next thing I'll show is the filtering capability. So let's say that you only wanted to see these first 2 rows that have 25,000 in them. So what you would do is within this column, because this column controls these values. By the way, you can filter, and you can combine filters on any of these columns, and I guess I can show that too. So let's go to the income, and let's just say let's say we're going to exclude the 50,000 row here. So what I'm going to say filter, and I'm going to say is not equal to, and if I say is not equal to, I have to include the entire character string here. So I'm going to copy this. So let's go back here and say filter is not equal to, I'm going to paste that value in, and then I say filter. And you'll see that it took out that 50,000 entry. Now one thing that, just to show that it has to be exact, you have to, or you can't go in and just put in something like 50,000. Okay. So you'll notice that put that row back in, because even though we see it as 50,000, it has to be an exact match. Let's say you wanted to see only 50,000. So you go in here and you could say filter, and you could say contains. Now this isn't going to work because the 50,000 shown here has a comma, so I'm just going to show that this doesn't work. So we're going to say filter, and it says it turns everything off, because for this to show that row, it says it has to contain 50,000. Well, nothing contains 50,000. Now if I put a comma in here and say filter, I get the one row, because now it contains 50, 1, 2, 3. Again, I can go into the filter, change this to just 50, 50, 0, and that's going to be the same filter because it matches the 50, 0. So there's nothing magical here, it's just a straight string match. So I'm going to clear that and put all the rows back. Let's say that I want to and I want to limit some of these values, it would be the same thing. You cannot put in 26, you would have to put in 26.0% to make it match, or you could make it match just on 26 alone, and that would work. If you said contains 1, it'll get all these 3 rows. So let's do that. Let's filter. Let's turn off. Let's turn off the 75,000. So we'll go here, filter, does not contain, and we'll say 75. Okay, so that turns off that row. Now let's only include the rows here that have a 1 in them. So I would come in here and I'd say filter, and I would say contains, and I'd put the number 1 in here and filter that. Now you'll notice that because these both have a number 1 in here, those rows are showing. By the way, you'll notice that the chart that's associated with this grid automatically updates as you change what values are shown. The next thing let's do, let's clear our filtering. Let me clear this filter first, and you can see how the filters are working for each column. So I'm going to clear this one. This only brings back 1 row. I need to go in here and clear that one to get all 4 rows back. So let's look at the sorting capability next. So sorting can happen by clicking on the column's header or the column's title. So you'll notice that I get the little up arrow, which shows that it is sorted in ascending order, which ascending order is based on this column, and it's alphabetical. Title here is what's being sorted. And if I go down, it obviously reverses it. And if I click the 3rd time, you'll notice there's no little triangle here. This is the default sort order. According to Kendo, it's supposed to unsort. And as you'll see in the next video, this doesn't work very well, but when you only have a category without any series, it works quite well. We'll show it where it doesn't work in following videos. One thing to note about sorting, when you first come into the page, the default sort order is the category sort underscore order XML value. When you first click and you sort any column, that default sort order goes away, and at that point it's all alphabetical sorting. So for example, if I refresh this page, the sort order here that you see is based on the XML data and the sort order field and its value. Some users might get confused by this the initial time they come into a page. If they see alphabetical type titles, it might not be sorted alphabetically, but when they click on the column title, these will be sorted alphabetically, and the initial sort order that is defined within the XML is not used. Even if you cycle through and get back to the default sort order, that sort order is gone. So if you need to ever get back to the original sort order, you have to refresh the page. Another thing to demonstrate here is that you can sort based on value. So just for fun, I'll show the ascending from the menu, and we can show descending from the menu. And you can still click on the title as well to make all that sorting work. And you can click and sort on the confidence intervals. And any of these columns can be sorted on. When we get to the grids that have a series or a group, you cannot sort by those, and we'll discuss that in more length when we get to that video. The last thing to show on this real basic grid and chart capability video is that you can mouse over the various chart objects here, and you can actually see the little pop-up that shows the information for each particular value. This is true for any of the charts. They all have the hover capability. One last thing before I close this demo, you can change the chart type on any indicator profile view, and even on the query result page. So all you have to do is know the name of the chart to show that you want to have used, and you type it into the URL. So you'd add a question mark, and in this case you can see I've already played the pie chart, so I say chart name equals pie. The valid chart names are available and shown to you in your chart.xml file. But I'm going to hit enter here, and you'll see that we get a pie chart. And we have the various options here. You can mouse over, you can see the callouts. One thing too that you'll notice here, we have a legend. And as you highlight over each individual item within the legend, it highlights the associated piece of the chart. You can turn on and off these pieces simply by clicking on their legend. And that's pretty much it for the basic capabilities of the Kendo grid and chart. Hope that was helpful. The next video we'll talk about when you have data sets that have series in them or data sets that need to be grouped.